grid is a wireless system that will fundamentally turn every single appliance in your home into the equivalent of a transmitting cell phone. That's every computer, every television, every furnace, every air conditioner, every coffee machine, every printer, every single appliance that you have in your house will eventually, in a smart grid, have an antenna that's embedded into it that will transmit your usage data to a smart meter on the outside of your home that will then transmit your usage data to another tower receiving that usage signal that will then go to the utility company for supposedly billing purposes. Not all signals will just be about your individual use. There will be aggregate meters that will bounce signal from house to house to house within a neighborhood that will then accumulate all of the usage data that will transmit that to the utility company. Now, what that will do is that the end metering system that is transmitting all of that data will be firing an RF signal at many, many times a second, which will increase the average homeowner's radio frequency radiation exposure exponentially.
The big game changer is that 5G will use much higher frequency bands than previously thought viable for mobile broadband and other applications. Such millimeter wave signals have physical properties that are both a limitation and a strength. They tend to travel best in narrow and straight lines, and they do not go through physical objects as well. But brilliant engineers have developed new antennas that can aim and amplify signals. Now, to make this work, the 5G build-out is going to be very infrastructure intensive, requiring massive deployment of small cells. I'm confident that the actions will lead to a cornucopia of unanticipated, innovative uses and will generate tens of billions of dollars in economic activity. And that's damn important, because it means that U.S. companies will be the first out of the gate. And that is why 5G is a national priority. And stay out of the way of technological development. Unlike some countries, we do not believe that we should spend the next couple of years studying what 5G should be or how it should operate. The future has a way of inventing itself. Turning innovators loose is far preferable to expecting committees and regulators to define the future. We won't wait for the standards. We're already seeing the industry gearing up to seize this opportunity. Verizon and AT&T tell us they'll begin deploying 5G trials in 2017, and the first commercial deployments they're talking about are expected in 2020. And we're not done. As part of our July 14 action, we also plan to ask for comments on opening up other high-frequency bands. Many of the high-frequency bands that we will make available for 5G currently have some satellite users, as well as some Defense Department applications, or at least the possibility of future satellite and defense users. This means sharing will be required between satellite and terrestrial wireless, an issue that is especially relevant in the 28 gigahertz band. But if anyone tells you that they know the details of what 5G is going to become, run the other way. If something can be connected, it will be connected. Hundreds of billions of microchips connected in products from pill bottles to plant waterers. We must reject the notion that the 5G future will be the sole provenance of urban areas. The 5G revolution will touch all corners of our country. A lot more antenna siting decisions by local governments and tightened our shot clock for siting application reviews. America's local governments will play an important role in determining how we fulfill this national priority. You can be sure of only one thing. The biggest Internet of Things application has yet to be imagined. Tens of billions of dollars in economic activity. And that's damn important.
2013 through to 2015. I was privy to a number of the new technologies that were coming down the pipe that was going to be implemented, namely the Internet of Things, and secondly, the 5G technology. I knew a long time ago that 5G was dangerous, but I didn't understand the correlation with the coronavirus, which I now do, and I want to be able to explain that to you. So what is happening? There is a deliberate strategy to roll out 5G, which is the 5th generation Internet radio spectrum frequencies that enable mobile phones, smartphones, and all devices to function on a much faster processing ability. And with the introduction of AI, artificial intelligence, and the Internet of Things, where all devices will be connected, so whether it's your car, whether it's your phone, whether it's your refrigerator, whether it's your electricity in your house, it's all going to be on a smart grid. Effectively a type of matrix, unfortunately. Sorry to use that term. So what is happening is that this technology has to be rolled out globally. My company that I used to work for, as they're running their largest worldwide business unit, is Vodafone. Vodafone are in partnership with Huawei or Highway, whatever you call them, a Chinese telecoms company. And they have been rolling out systematic 5G implementation in multiple locations. What's the relevance? The frequency that they're using, and I also ran a telecoms company back in 2010 through to 2013-14, some of you will be aware, that specialized in radio spectrum, this is the ability to take external signals into buildings, and so that the frequency that you experience in power on your phone is the same in the building as it is outside of the building. When mobile networks were created initially, they thought people would be on the road all the time, hence why they were called mobile phones. But actually what happened is people used their mobile phones in buildings, and the signal wasn't strong enough to penetrate buildings. That's called radio spectrum. The 5G frequency is a very high frequency, very, very, very high frequency. It is just below the classification of a weapon, and I'll tell you why. The frequency that they're using, which is 10 times faster than 4G, unfortunately, when it comes into connection with human bodies, causes cell poisoning. Cell poisoning. So our bodies try to fight the radiation that is in the form of cell poisoning because of this frequency. It is effectively radiation. And what happens is our bodies kick out the toxicity or toxins with some proteins and some DNA, RNA from our cells in the form of a chemical which is called a virus. So most diseases are excretions from cells that we are trying to pull out of our body or push out of our body. And it will head towards orifices to be excreted or expunged out of our body, so our noses or our mouths. What is happening is that 5G, the frequency and the power, which is 10 times more powerful than 4G, is reacting adversely with human cells, causing cells in our bodies to be poisoned, toxic, and our natural defense mechanism is pushing out that toxicity in the form of a virus. So what you're seeing is not coronavirus per se, you're seeing cell poisoning manifesting with fluids, chemicals, viruses that the body is trying to dispose of because it's harmful to its physical body. So all that's occurring around the world, and I hear your minds thinking, well, how can that be, Pastor? But I'll explain in a moment. All that's occurring in the world is a reaction to human bodies to the electrification of the universe through 5G towers, 5G cells that are being populated in major cities around the world. So this is what is causing this pandemic. So sorry to say, second point, this is the largest global cover-up in history for the impact on human beings based on technological advancements. So what is happening is not the coronavirus. It is a virus that is being produced by cell poisoning. And therefore, the virus that we have is really a measure or indication of our cells excreting toxins. This is what's killing people. So let me give you some facts that will hopefully make this compelling. So one of the first cities that Vodafone, Highway, and some of the other technology companies rolled out ubiquitous blanket 5G. Guess where it was? Wuhan, China, where this coronavirus was supposedly meant to start in some fish market. That is complete nonsense. It started as a result of radio frequencies at a high level, creating radiation that was toxic to cells, and that's why people were falling over, dying in the streets, etc. So they've tried to cover it up. So because it has a flu-type characteristics, they are using coronavirus to try and hide the fact that people are dying from the 5G frequency. So let me just explain.
Symptoms in Wuhan do not match symptoms in non-5G countries and cities. Respiratory viruses have wet coughs, not dry coughs. The media claims hospitals are overrun, but journalists and hospital workers are showing empty hospitals and empty test centers. There is no test for isolated COVID-19, and the PCR tests they use detect partial genetic sequences that are in every single human being all of the time and are not harmful. People dying of serious medical conditions are being listed as COVID-19 deaths. To die with coronavirus sequences in your body is not the same as to die from coronavirus. This is not the same as this. A dry cough is not a symptom of viral detoxification. Fluid expulsion is wet. News stations are now being caught recycling the same staged footage in different times and countries, even pictures from old pandemic movies, and citizen journalists are finding empty hospitals and empty testing centers where just hours before, their news stations claimed were overspilling with victims. This is called orchestrated propaganda, which is only used by people carrying out an agenda against you. Remember from part 3, 64 million people report coronavirus symptoms to their doctors every flu season, and symptoms can be difficult to distinguish and cannot be properly diagnosed, so it is the perfect scapegoat to blame the coming 5G radiation poisoning pandemic on, as even medical professionals will be none the wiser. Pay attention. Here is how the scapegoat virus patsy is being ingeniously created. According to the CDC, there are 7 different common types of coronavirus strains. We are testing people for any strain of a coronavirus, not specifically for COVID-19. There are no reliable tests for a specific COVID-19 virus. There are no reliable agencies or media outlets for reporting numbers of actual COVID-19 virus cases. This needs to be addressed first and foremost. Every action and reaction to COVID-19 is based on totally flawed data, and we simply cannot make accurate assessments. In other words, this is an absolute crock of bullshit. This is why you're hearing that most people with COVID-19 are showing nothing more than cold and flu-like symptoms. That's because most coronavirus strains are nothing more than cold and flu-like symptoms. We are so gullible that we are locked in our houses, social distancing from this. The few actual novel coronavirus cases do have some worse respiratory responses, but still have a very promising recovery rate, especially for those without prior health issues. That is why, just like every single flu season, the average age of death for this fake pandemic is 80 years old. The gold standard in testing for COVID-19 is laboratory isolated or purified coronavirus particles, free from any contaminants and particles that look like viruses but are not viruses, that have been proven to be the cause of the syndrome known as COVID-19 and obtained by using proper viral isolation methods and controls, not the PCR test that is currently being used or serology antibody tests which do not detect viruses as such. PCR basically takes a sample of your cells and amplifies any DNA to look for viral sequences, or bits of non-human DNA that seem to match parts of a known viral genome, which again, everybody has in their body anyway, all of the time, hence the 64 million reported cases every year, never mind the billions of unreported cases that are not serious.